Person 1. The great hall of the Galactic Concord shimmered under soft blue light. Tall spires of polished crystal rose toward the sky, reflecting stars that had watched over this part of space for thousands of years. Inside, leaders from dozens of worlds sat in curved rows, their faces calm but watchful. At the center of it all stood High Chancellor Cale Vorn, a tall being with silver eyes and a voice that carried without needing to rise. He had ruled the Concord for over 200 cycles, guiding peace through wisdom, not war. Today's session had begun like any other. Reports on trade routes, updates on colony expansions, minor disputes between border systems. Nothing unusual. But then a red alert pulsed through every console in the chamber. The kind of alert reserved for true emergencies. All chatter stopped. Every eye turned to the main display hovering above the floor. There, in the Zeta Draconis system, a quiet, neutral zone far from any major Concord world, a massive fleet had appeared. Not just a few ships, hundreds silent still, no signals, no identification codes. Nothing in the Concord's vast database matched their design. Admiral Jorik Vex, commander of the 7th Fleet, stood quickly. His scaled hands clenched. "Scramble long-range drones," he ordered through his comm. Full sensor sweep. "I want to know what we're facing." Within minutes, the first images came back. The ships were enormous, some longer than Concord dreadnoughts, others sleek and fast like hunters. Their hulls were smooth, painted in deep blues and whites with a strange symbol on each, a circle divided by land and sea, wrapped in thin white lines. It looked ancient, familiar, yet forgotten. "No energy signatures beyond minimal life support," reported a young analyst from the observation deck. "No weapons charged. No comms broadcast. They're just waiting." Senator Lyra Molt, a slender diplomat from the ocean world of Nirel, leaned forward. Her voice was quiet but sharp. "No civilization outside the Concord has built ships that size in 10,000 cycles. Not since the fall of the Cathari." "Who are they?" Whispers spread through the hall. Some feared pirates with stolen tech. Others thought it might be a new faction from the Outer Veil, a region long considered too dangerous to explore. But none of those theories fit. Pirates didn't move in perfect formation. Outer Veil species used organic ships, not metal ones. Chancellor Vorn raised a hand and silence returned. "Bring me everything we have on Zeta Draconis," he said. Every scan, every historical log, every myth. Hours passed. The Concord's best historians dug through archives older than most planets in the Alliance. Then a junior archivist named Eli found something. Buried in a damaged data crystal from the early expansion era was a single entry. Sol system. 3rd planet. Designation Earth, status pre-warp. Abandoned due to internal collapse. Last contact, cycle 8742. Earth? Lyra Molt frowned. "That name? I've heard it in old nursery tales. A world that destroyed itself before it could join the stars. But that was over 9,000 cycles ago," said Admiral Vex. "If they survived, why hide for so long? And why show up now with a fleet like that?" No one had an answer. Meanwhile, far from the glittering halls of Virellis, in a hidden command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains of North America, Captain Daniel Hayes watched the same star maps on his screen. Around him, officers moved with quiet focus. The air hummed with the low thrum of quantum generators and the soft beeps of status panels. Beside him, Commander Lisa Tran adjusted her headset. "All ships report nominal," she said. "Shields at standby. Engines cold. No Concord vessels have entered weapons range." Daniel nodded. He was a man in his late 40s with tired eyes and a steady hand. He'd trained for this moment since he was a boy, back when Earth was still healing from its own wars. For over a century, humanity had stayed silent. No radio signals, no space launches beyond the moon, no signs of life to the wider galaxy. They called it the Great Silence, a shield made not of metal but of quiet. But silence couldn't last forever. When deep space probes detected Concord survey ships drifting too close to Sol's old defense perimeter, Earth's United Defense Council made a choice, not out of fear, not out of pride, but out of necessity. If the galaxy was coming to their doorstep, they would meet it, not as beggars, not as threats, but as equals. The Terran Vanguard, 212 ships, built in secret shipyards orbiting Mars, the Moon, and the asteroid belt, had launched 3 weeks ago. Now they waited near Zeta Draconis, a neutral point agreed upon by Earth's top strategists, a place to be seen but not to provoke. On the main display of the command center, a live feed showed the Concord's scout drones circling the lead Terran vessel, the Aegis. Daniel watched as one drone drifted closer, its sensors probing. He didn't order it shot down. He didn't jam its signals. He let them look. Let them see us, he said quietly. Let them wonder. Back on Varelli's, the Concord leaders argued deep into the night. Some wanted to send a full battle group. Others urged caution. Admiral Vex insisted they at least try to communicate. If they wanted war, he said, they would have fired by now. Finally, a decision was made. A single message would be sent on all open frequencies, a standard first contact hail in galactic standard. Simple, clear, polite. The message went out. Seconds stretched into minutes. Then from the silent fleet a reply came, not in galactic standard, not in any known alien tongue, but in a human language called English, a calm voice, male, speaking slowly. This is Earth. We come in peace. The words played over the Concord council chamber. Many didn't understand them at first, but the translation engines worked fast. When the meaning became clear, a stunned silence fell over the room. Earth, the lost world, the myth, the ghost of history. And now it had returned, with a fleet that could rival their own. High Chancellor Vorn stood slowly, his silver eyes fixed on the image of the blue and white ships. Find out everything you can about them, he ordered, and prepare a diplomatic envoy. If they speak peace, we will answer in kind. But even as he said it, he felt a chill, because peace, in his long experience, was often the first mask worn by power, and Earth's fleet looked very powerful indeed. Part 2. Deep beneath the snow-covered peaks of the Colorado Rockies, the Terran Command Center hummed with quiet energy. Banks of screens glowed softly, showing star maps, ship statuses, and live feeds from the fleet stationed near Zeta Draconis. Captain Daniel Hayes stood with his arms crossed, watching the main display where the Concord's response to Earth's message was being analyzed. Beside him, Commander Lisa Tran typed rapidly, her eyes sharp and focused. They've sent a translation request, she said. They want to confirm the language and origin of our signal. Daniel nodded. Good, let them verify. But keep our comms tight. No extra data, just the basics. For over 100 years, Earth had stayed hidden. After the resource wars nearly tore the planet apart, the surviving nations agreed on one rule. No signals into deep space. No broadcasts. No probes beyond the solar system. They called it the Great Silence, not out of shame but survival. History had taught them that loud civilizations often vanished quickly. So humanity went quiet, rebuilt in secret, and watched the stars with patient eyes. But silence could not last forever. When Earth's long-range sensors picked up Concord survey drones drifting past the edge of the Oort cloud, just beyond the old solar warning line, the United Defense Council knew the time had come. They could not hide forever, and they would not be treated as primitives if discovered, so they built, in hidden shipyards around Mars, beneath the ice of Europa, inside hollowed asteroids, they constructed the Terran Vanguard. 200 ships, each powered by quantum fusion cores shielded by gravitic fields, armed not for conquest but for deterrence. Their first mission was not to fight but to be seen. Now, that mission was unfolding. On the other side of the galaxy, aboard the Concord flagship Eternal Accord, Ambassador Trell Vaughn reviewed the data from the unknown fleet. He was a seasoned diplomat, his species known for patience and precision. But even he felt uneasy. The ships were unlike anything in Concord records. Their hulls absorbed sensor scans instead of reflecting them. Their formation was mathematically perfect. No drift, no chatter, no wasted motion. And then there was the message, "This is Earth. We come in peace." The name Earth meant nothing to most Concord citizens. To historians, it was a footnote, a pre-warp world that collapsed before achieving spaceflight. Yet here they were, speaking a dead language with a fleet that matched the Concord's best. Trell turned to his aide. "Prepare a shuttle. I will go to them." His aide blinked. "Alone, sir? What if it's a trap?" "If they wanted to kill us," Trell said, "they would have done it already." They waited. They spoke first. "That is not the act of an enemy." Back on Earth, Colonel Ben Carter adjusted his uniform in front of a mirror. He was lean with short brown hair and calm eyes. He had trained for first contact scenarios since he was a cadet. Now at 42, he would be one of the first humans an alien ever met face to face. Dr. Maya Ellis stood nearby, checking her datapad. She was a linguist and xenocultural expert, fluent in over a dozen reconstructed alien dialects thanks to centuries of intercepted signals and AI modeling. They'll likely use formal galactic standards, she said, but I've loaded backup protocols in case they switch to something older. Ben nodded. Just remember, we're not here to impress. We're here to show we belong. Hours later, Trelvaughn's shuttle detached from the Eternal Accord and glided toward the lead Terran vessel, the Aegis. The ship was massive, its hull smooth, its lines clean with no visible weapons ports. As the shuttle docked, soft lights guided it into a bay that opened without sound. Inside, Ben and Maya waited. The airlock hissed open. Trell stepped through, his tall frame wrapped in deep blue robes, his face unreadable. For a long moment, neither side moved. Then Ben stepped forward, hand open in the ancient human gesture of peace. "Welcome to the Aegis," he said in clear galactic standard. "I am Colonel Ben Carter. This is Dr. Maya Ellis." Trell's eyes widened slightly. He had not expected them to speak his language, let alone with such fluency. "You understand galactic standard?" "We've been listening," Maya said gently. "For a very long time." They led him to a simple conference room, no screens, no weapons, just a table and chairs. Over the next few hours, they explained Earth's history, the wars, the silence, the rebuilding. They showed him images of cities rising from ruins, forests regrowing over battlefields, children learning not just science but empathy. Trell listened carefully. He had met many species, but none who spoke of survival with such humility. "Why reveal yourselves now?" he asked. "Because you were getting close," Ben replied. "We didn't want fear to be your first impression of us. So we came to you, on neutral ground with open hands." Trell believed them. But he knew not everyone in the Concord would. Back on Varelli's, the High Council was divided. Fleet Marshal Ren Torv, a broad-shouldered Zenthar with a reputation for aggression, slammed his fist on the table. They hid for 10,000 cycles. Now they appear with a war fleet. That is not peace. That is deception. Senator Lyra Molt countered. They could have attacked when our scouts were vulnerable. They did not. They sent a message in a language we barely recognized. That takes courage, not cunning. Chancellor Vorn remained silent, weighing both sides. Meanwhile, aboard the Aegis, Trell asked to see their technology. Ben agreed, but only non-sensitive systems. He showed him the ship's power core, a glowing sphere of contained fusion, stable and clean. He explained their shields, their navigation, their medical bays. Nothing was hidden, yet nothing critical was revealed. "They're being honest," Trell reported later to the Concord Command. "Their tech is different, but not magical. They built this themselves, slowly, carefully." Still, doubt lingered. That night, on Earth, Daniel Hayes stood alone in the observation room of the command center. A large window showed the night sky, stars that had watched humanity rise, fall, and rise again. He thought of his grandfather, who had lived through the last days of the resource wars, who had whispered stories of a better future. "We're not hiding anymore," Daniel said softly. In orbit above Zeta Draconis, the Terran fleet held its position, silent, ready, not threatening but not afraid. And across the galaxy, in the halls of power, the name Earth was no longer a myth. It was a question, a challenge, a possibility. The Conquered would have to decide what to do with it. But one thing was certain: the galaxy had just gotten bigger. Part 3. The meeting aboard the Aegis ended with quiet handshakes and exchanged data chips. Ambassador Trelvaugh returned to his shuttle with more questions than answers, but also with a growing respect for the humans. They were not boastful. They did not flaunt their power. They simply stood firm, spoke clearly, and offered no threats. That, in his long experience, was rare. Back on the Concord flagship Eternal Accord, Trell filed his full report. He described the humans' calm demeanor, their advanced but practical technology, and their clear desire for peaceful recognition. He recommended immediate diplomatic talks and provisional observer status for Earth and the Conquered assembly, but not everyone agreed. Fleet Marshal Ren Torv, stormed into the command chamber before the report was even fully reviewed. His heavy boots echoed on the metal floor. "You were charmed," he said, voice low and sharp. "They showed you clean rooms and soft words. But look at their fleet. 200 warships appearing without warning in neutral space. That is not diplomacy. That is positioning." Admiral Jorik Vex, who had been studying the Terran fleet's movements, frowned. "They haven't moved an inch since arrival. No weapons charged. No jamming. If they were positioning for war, they'd be closer to our supply lines. Or waiting for us to lower our guard," Torv shot back. The tension spread through the Concord leadership like a slow fire. Some worlds, especially those with histories of invasion, sided with Torv. Others, like Senator Lyra Molt's Oceanic Alliance, urged patience. "We judged the Cathari too quickly once," as she reminded them. "We lost a potential ally because of fear." Chancellor Vorn listened to all sides. He knew the stakes. Accept Earth, and the Concord's ancient claim as the sole advanced civilization in the region would end. Reject them and risk a conflict with a power they did not understand. In the end, he ordered a cautious step forward. A formal diplomatic envoy would be sent to the Terran fleet within 3 days. Full recognition would depend on Earth's willingness to share basic scientific principles and accept Concord oversight. On Earth, the United Defense Council received the news with mixed feelings. Colonel Ben Carter argued they should agree immediately. "It's a foot in the door," he said during a secure video call with Daniel Hayes. "Once they see we're not hiding weapons or plotting, trust will grow." Dr. Maya Ellis was more cautious. "They'll want access to our core systems, our AI networks, our energy tech. We can't give that away." "We won't," Daniel replied. "But we can show them enough to prove we're not a threat." Preparations began. The Aegis was cleaned and reorganized. Non-essential personnel were moved to support vessels. Cultural displays, art, music, historical records were loaded onto secure data drives. Earth would present itself not as a military power, but as a civilization worth knowing. 3 days later, a Concord diplomatic shuttle arrived, larger this time, carrying 5 envoys from different member worlds. They were greeted again by Ben and Maya, who led them through a carefully planned tour. They saw hydroponic gardens feeding the crew, schools where children learned alien languages alongside math, and medical labs where doctors treated injuries with nanotech that healed without scars. One envoy, a soft-spoken botanist from the forest world of Virel, asked to see Earth's plant life. Maya showed her images of redwoods, coral reefs, and wheat fields stretching to the horizon. The botanist wept quietly. "Your world still lives," she whispered. "Ours was paved over centuries ago, but not all were moved." A Zenthar delegate, loyal to Torv, kept his arms crossed and asked only technical questions. "How fast can your ships jump? What is your maximum shield output? How many more fleets do you have hidden?" Ben answered each honestly but vaguely. "Our jump range is sufficient for defense. Our shields are strong enough to protect our people. And Earth has only one fleet. This one." The Zenthar didn't look convinced. That evening, as the envoys rested in guest quarters, Torv made his move. From a hidden Concord outpost near the Draconis beacon, he launched a small Zenthar cruiser on a routine patrol. Its orders were simple: provoke a reaction. The cruiser drifted close to a Terran scout vessel, the Wayfarer, and suddenly powered up its forward cannons. No warning, no hails. Just a bright flash as it fired a low-yield plasma burst, not meant to destroy, but to test. The shot never hit. A shimmering blue shield flared around the Wayfarer, absorbing the blast like water soaking up rain. Then in less than 3 seconds, the entire Terran fleet shifted. Not chaotically, not in panic, in perfect silent unison. Within moments, every Concord ship in the system, including the Eternal Accord Gausing, was surrounded. Not by weapons pointed at them, but by positioning so precise it left no escape routes. From the bridge of the Aegis, Commander Lisa Tran opened a channel to all Concord vessels. Her voice was calm, steady, and firm. "We do not seek conflict, but we will not be tested again." The message echoed across every ship in the system. On the Eternal Accord, Admiral Vex stared at his tactical display in awe. "They moved faster than our predictive algorithms. Their coordination is flawless." Trell Vaughn turned to Chancellor Vorn, who had joined the flagship for the talks. "This is not aggression," Trell said. "This is discipline. They showed restraint and strength in the same breath. But Torv was furious. He stormed onto the command deck. They just trapped our fleet. That's an act of war. No, Vex replied quietly. An act of war would have included firing back. They didn't. They simply made it clear they cannot be pushed. Back on Earth, Daniel Hayes watched the feed with a tight jaw. He had hoped it wouldn't come to this. But he also knew that in the eyes of powerful empires, kindness was often mistaken for weakness. Sometimes you had to stand tall so others would stop trying to walk over you. The conquered envoys requested an emergency meeting. Ben and Maya met them in the conference room again. This time the mood was different. Even the Zenthar delegate looked uneasy. "We apologize for the unauthorized action," said the lead envoy, a gray-skinned diplomat from the moon of Krellis. "It will not happen again." Ben nodded. "We accept your apology. But understand this. Earth is not here to take your place. We are here to share the stars." The envoys left the next day with new data, new impressions, and a heavy silence. In the conquered capital, the debate raged hotter than ever. Torv demanded military readiness, Molt demanded immediate recognition, and Chancellor Vorn, for the first time in his long rule, felt the weight of a decision that could change everything. Because now the question was no longer who are they, it was what do we do about them, and the answer would shape the galaxy for generations. Part 4. The conquered High Council chamber was quiet, but the silence was heavy. Every delegate sat still, eyes fixed on Chancellor Vorn as he stood at the center of the room. The incident near Zeta Draconis had shaken them. Earth's response, swift, precise, and restrained, had proven they were not to be underestimated. Yet fear still clung to the edges of the debate like morning fog. Fleet Marshal Ren Torv had not given up. In private meetings with loyal Zenthar commanders, he argued that Earth's restraint was a trick. "They want us to trust them," he said, voice low and urgent. "While we lower our shields, they'll move more ships into position. They've been hiding for centuries. They're masters of patience." His plan was simple. Deploy gravitic mines along the Terran fleet's likely retreat path. The mines wouldn't explode. Instead, they would emit a pulse that disrupted quantum fusion cores, the very heart of Earth's ships. Disabled but not destroyed, the fleet would be helpless. Then the Concord could demand full access to their technology for safety reasons. Torv knew it was risky, but he believed it was necessary. Better to act now than wait for them to strike first, he told his inner circle. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Daniel Hayes reviewed new intelligence from deep space sensors. Something felt off. Conquered ship movements near the Draconis beacon had become erratic, small vessels darting in and out of sensor range, then vanishing. It wasn't normal patrol behavior. "Lisa," he said over the comm, "run a pattern analysis on all Concord activity in the last 48 hours. Commander Lisa Tran's fingers flew across her console. Minutes later, she called back. "They're laying something, not weapons, but energy signatures match old Concord gravitic disruptors, banned after the Chiral Accords." Daniel's jaw tightened. Mines. He didn't panic. He didn't order weapons hot. Instead, he activated Protocol Echo, Earth's silent countermeasure, developed during the Great Silence for exactly this kind of threat. Every ship in the Terran vanguard began emitting a low-frequency harmonic pulse, invisible to most sensors but designed to neutralize gravitic interference before it could lock on. Back in the conquered capital, Torv gave the final order. "Deploy the mines. Full grid. Now." Hidden launchers on 3 fast corvettes released dozens of sleek, dark devices into the void. They drifted silently toward the Terran fleet's position, their internal clocks ticking down to activation. But before the countdown reached 0, something strange happened. The mines flickered. Their guidance systems glitched. Then, one by one, they powered down completely, floating dead in space. On the bridge of the Aegis, Lisa watched the feed. "Mines neutralized, no damage, no trace of our countermeasure left behind." "Good," Daniel said. "Now let's make sure they know we saw it." He ordered the Aegis to transmit a data packet directly to the Eternal Accord. Inside, was a full schematic of the disarmed mines along with a simple message. We understand fear, but trust must begin somewhere. The packet arrived during a closed-door session of the High Council. Chancellor Vorn opened it himself. His face went pale as he read the details. He turned slowly to Torv, who stood near the back of the room. "Did you authorize this?" Vorn asked, his voice dangerously calm. Torv hesitated, then nodded. "For the safety of the Concord." "You endangered peace for pride," Vorn said. "Earth could have destroyed those mines and us with a single command. Instead, they showed us how to fix our own mistake." Senator Lyra Molt stood. "This ends now. Earth has proven their honor 3 times, by speaking first, by refusing to retaliate, and by returning our weapon harmless. If we do not accept them as equals, we are the ones unworthy of this alliance." A murmur rose through the chamber. Even some of Torv's allies looked ashamed. On the Eternal Accord, Admiral Jorik Vex watched the data from the neutralized mines. He had served the Concord for 50 years, fought in 3 border wars, and never once doubted its moral standing. But now, he wondered. "We tested them," he said to Trell Vaughn, who stood beside him. "And they passed. We failed." Trell nodded. "They didn't just stop the mines. They gave us the key to disarm them ourselves. That's not strategy. That's generosity." Back on Earth, Colonel Ben Carter and Dr. Maya Ellis prepared for the next step. The Concord had requested a final meeting, not on a ship, but on neutral ground, a small moon orbiting Zeta Draconis, long used for peace talks between rival systems. Earth agreed. As the Aegis adjusted course, Daniel Hayes stood alone on the observation deck. He thought of all the people who had worked in secret for generations, engineers, teachers, farmers, soldiers, all so that one day, humanity could stand among the stars without shame. He hoped today would be that day. The meeting on the moon was simple. No grand halls, no crowds, just a dome of transparent alloy under a sky full of stars. Inside, Chancellor Vorn waited, flanked only by Trell Vaughn and Senator Molt. Ben and Maya entered, followed by Daniel himself, the first time a Terran captain had left his ship since arrival. Vorn stepped forward. "We owe you an apology," he said without preamble. "Not just for the mines, but for doubting your intentions." Daniel met his gaze. "We understand. Fear is natural when the unknown appears. But you are not unknown anymore," Vorn said. "You are Earth, and Earth has earned its place." He extended a data crystal. Provisional membership in the Concord Assembly, full rights within 1 solar cycle, pending cultural exchange and mutual agreements. Ben took the crystal. Maya smiled softly. No cheers, no speeches. Just a quiet nod between leaders who had chosen peace over pride. But not everyone accepted it. Far away, aboard a Zenthar warship hidden in the outer rings of the Draconis system, Fleet Marshal Torv watched the live feed of the meeting. His fists clenched. "This is surrender," he growled. "They'll weaken us from within." He activated a private channel. "Prepare the reserve fleet. If the Concord won't protect itself, I will." The message was brief, but it carried the seed of future trouble. For now, though, peace held. As the Terran delegation returned to their shuttle, Daniel looked up at the stars. Earth was no longer a whisper in the dark. It was a voice in the chorus of civilizations, and the galaxy was listening. Part 5. The Terran fleet began its slow turn toward home. Around Zeta Draconis, the last of the conquered observation ships powered down their scanners and drifted away. Peace had been agreed upon, but trust, as both sides knew, would take time to grow. On the bridge of the Aegis, Captain Daniel Hayes watched the starfield shift as the ship adjusted course. Behind him, Commander Lisa Tran monitored the long-range sensors, her eyes sharp for any sign of trouble. So far, there was none. The Concord had kept its word. All mines were retrieved. Patrol routes were adjusted to avoid Earth's declared space. And the data crystal granting provisional membership sat safely in the diplomatic vault. But Daniel knew better than to relax completely. He had read the intelligence reports. Fleet Marshal Ren Torv had vanished from official channels. His flagship, the Iron Maw, was no longer docked at its usual port. That worried him. Still, for now, Earth had won something far more valuable than victory in battle. Respect. Back on Earth, cities that had spent a century in quiet preparation now buzzed with cautious celebration. News of the Concorde's recognition spread quickly, though the government asked for calm. This was not the end, they reminded everyone, but a beginning. Schools added new lessons on galactic history. Engineers shared non-sensitive schematics with international teams. Farmers and doctors, artists and scientists, all understood their world was no longer alone. In the Colorado Command Center, Colonel Ben Carter and Dr. Maya Ellis prepared the first cultural exchange package. It held music, poetry, medical knowledge, and images of Earth's natural wonders. Nothing about weapons, nothing about defense. Just proof that humanity was more than its wars. Meanwhile, aboard the Concorde flagship Eternal Accord, Chancellor Vorn addressed the full assembly. His voice was steady as he announced Earth's provisional status. Some delegates clapped. Others remained silent, but no one objected openly. The display of restraint by the Terran fleet and their quiet handling of Torv's sabotage had changed minds. Senator Lyra Molt stood after the speech. "We spent 10,000 years believing we were the only light in this part of the galaxy," she said. "Now we learn there was another, waiting patiently in the dark. Perhaps it was we who were blind." Her words spread through the conquered worlds, carried on news streams and public forums. Curiosity replaced fear. Young students asked teachers about Earth. Artists painted the blue and white globe they had seen on Terran ships. For the first time in generations, the Conquered felt not like a ruling body, but a growing family. But in the shadows, Torv plotted. Hidden in a remote asteroid belt near the outer veil, his reserve fleet gathered, 50 warships loyal only to him, fueled and armed. He believed the Conquered had grown soft, that Earth's peaceful words were a cover for future conquest, and he would not wait to be proven right. "We strike before they settle in," he told his captains. "One clean blow to their lead ship. Make it look like an accident. Then the Concorde will see Earth for what they are, a threat." His plan was set for the night the Terran fleet passed through the Helios Drift, a narrow corridor of space dense with cosmic dust. Perfect for an ambush. What Torv didn't know was that Earth had expected this. During the Great Silence, humanity had not only built ships, they had studied their enemies. Long-range listening posts disguised as space debris had tracked Torv's movements for weeks. When his fleet began to gather, Earth's AI network flagged the pattern instantly. Daniel didn't panic. He didn't change course. Instead, he sent a single encrypted message to Admiral Jorik Vex. "Torv moves tonight. Helios Drift, 50 ships. We will not fire first." Vex received the message just as he was reviewing patrol logs. His blood ran cold. He had hoped Torv would stand down. Now he faced a terrible choice: betray a fellow Conquered officer or let Earth be attacked. He chose honor. Within the hour, Vex dispatched 3 loyal Conquered cruisers to the Helios Drift, not to fight, but to broadcast a wideband signal on all military frequencies. "All ships stand down. This is a direct order from the High Command. Any hostile action will be treated as treason." Torv's fleet froze. His captains hesitated. Attacking Earth now would mean open rebellion. Enraged, Torv tried to override the order, but Vex had already locked his command codes. The ambush collapsed before it began. From the bridge of the Aegis, Daniel watched the enemy ships power down and scatter. He said nothing. No gloating. No threats. Just a quiet nod to Lisa. "Let them go," he said. "We've made our point." Later, Torv was arrested aboard his own ship. Stripped of rank, charged with conspiracy and unauthorized military action. His name became a warning in Conquered academies. Pride without wisdom leads to ruin. With Torv gone, the path forward cleared. The Conquered Assembly voted unanimously to fast-track Earth's full membership. Cultural envoys were exchanged. Trade routes were planned. And for the first time, human scientists stood beside alien researchers in shared labs, solving problems neither could tackle alone. Months later, a young Concord officer stood on the observation deck of the Eternal Accord, staring at a star chart. A new symbol now marked the Sol system, a blue globe wrapped in white lines. His superior, a veteran of the Zeta Draconis standoff, joined him. "Whose fleet is that?" the young officer asked, pointing to a distant cluster of ships moving in perfect formation toward the inner galaxy. The veteran smiled faintly. "Earth's." And in that simple answer, a new era began. Not of conquest, not of fear, but of shared stars and second chances.